I am super excited to tell you about how I was on a podcast, and it wasn't just a regular podcast. It was one of my favorite podcasts. It's called Ukramedia, and I'll leave all the links in the description, but I'll also tack it onto this video. And that's all I have to say. Let's get into it. I hope you enjoy it. I really did. It was really fun. Okay, I hope you like it.
What's up, Ukramedia family? Vladimir Prokhnevskiy here, and welcome to episode number 39 of the Ukramedia podcast, where I serve our Ukramedia family with weekly interviews from highly creative people. Now, today's guest is Jeffrey Boncristiano. Probably butchered his name. Jeff is a social media sensation and a talented motion graphics artist who is well known for his epic beard and stylish pictures. That's right. He has gained more than 30,000 followers on his Instagram account. He has been featured in many online publications, including Elite Daily, BuzzFeed, and Maxim. Wow, Jeff, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time. And let me know if I missed anything from the intro.
Thank you. That was an awesome intro. My YouTube is growing too. I'm getting about 5,000 a month right now, and that's pretty fun because that's what I care about a lot lately. But that particular thing, like the others, has not much to do with motion graphics as it does creative. So, but that's my whole thing. So I don't like to feel funneled into a corner or put into a corner.
Right. Yeah. No, and it's funny because most of the time I struggle finding pictures for guests, but not for you. Now I'm trying to figure out which one to use. I'm like, man, sure. I don't know. Should I keep Jeff with his shirt on? Or
Yeah, there's way too many pictures of me on the internet.
Yeah, so the struggle is real. Now I'm like, now I'm overwhelmed. There's so many pictures to choose from. Like, I don't know which one to go with. But man, this interview has been a long time coming. We've been trying to connect together for a long time, but I'm glad I finally have you on the line. This is great. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So excited.
Yeah, you had quite a journey, man. So, but let's start from the very beginning, man. How did you get started in motion graphics?
All right, so I guess it started by I was making videos with my friends just all the time, like, just stupid little movies to make our friends laugh, like fart jokes and stuff like that. And eventually we wanted to make like a cooler movie or a funnier, like bigger idea. Then we came across some logistical problems and something like we needed to fix in video, or we wanted to do it, but we had no budget. We're just, I think it was 94 or something. I don't know, not 94, 2004. So I found the solution in After Effects, and I was like, this is fascinating. This got me super excited, and I'll get back to what it was specifically I got excited about. But that was where I started working in After Effects. I was like, oh, this is fascinating. And in particular, what was so interesting for me is this was the time period of when every home camera shot 30 frames a second. And to get that film look, you had to pay a lot or get a really nice expensive to shoot 24. And I was like, this post-production thing that I'm looking at, this After Effects, this is the magic that makes everything big. It makes it larger than life. This is what separates our stupid movies to something that I'm actually proud of. And everywhere I looked, it was always the post-production that gave things a polish that I've never could achieve anywhere else. So I just dived in, and it was perfect for me, who is kind of like spending a lot of time on the computer. It was creative, and it was like more logical and artistic. So it was this perfectly suitable tool for me. So after that, I ran with it. And there's I can keep going. There's a little more to the story to how I ended up in New York.
Oh, keep going. We got time.
Okay, cool. So I went with this, and it was good. It was really fun, but I was working on Cape Cod and just doing whatever. I was like a home theater installer and so on. And then one year I just realized I hated my job. So I was like, oh, what else could I do? And I don't know how it happened. I think it was a girlfriend of mine was like, she had some Emmy awards for After Effects stuff and all this stuff. And she inspired me like crazy. And I was like, oh, you can actually do something with this. This is really fascinating. So I kind of hit it hard, and I took on 3 jobs to save a whole bunch of money so that when an opportunity arose, I could hop onto it. So I just worked, and every break I had, I just read every book on compositing, After Effects, art, design, everything I could do every given moment. There was no stopping. Like it was just always obsessive. And I just kept going. And then one of my friends in New York, he found an internship here, and I was like, yep. And I quit everything. A month later, I was in New York, living off of all of my savings, making no money, and just like cranking away, trying to get into the After Effects thing. This was when I was about 32. I'm 38 now. So I just like, or maybe I was 32. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Anyways, so I got here and I just kind of slowly worked my way up. I'm completely self-taught. I didn't go to school for this. I went to school for other things. So it was just a matter of hard work and a good work ethic. And, you know, honestly, before all of that, I still consider my biggest strength is just being a good dude. You know what I mean? And that's like, if I were to have one thing that I could hopefully inspire a lot of people who are trying to get into After Effects and all that stuff and post-production in general, and make it even in a difficult city like New York or whatever, like just being a good person is probably the number one skill set you could actually have. Like everything else is secondary, I think.
Totally agree with that.
So I just really run with that, and that's what I drive everything I do here with. That's like my Reader's Digest version of the story.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned something about post-production, you know, how you were so fascinated with post-production. You know, that's interesting because post-production is everything, I think, to me, because post-production, for example, like early days, I was a cameraman, and my twin brother, Sergey, who creates tutorials for our channel, he always made me look great because he's a great editor. You know, you're always at the mercy of the editor. A good editor can really make you look really, really, really good. And same thing with like, you know, podcasting, where, you know, when I started with the podcast, I had like an $18 microphone, and now I have like a $300 something microphone. And you know what? The difference between that mic and this mic is minute, man. And it's all about post-production. So I was kind of like bummed when I bought this microphone. I was like, man, I was content with the other mic because, you know, it's just like, it's really all about post-production. If you have good software and you know the skills. Anyway, so that after this podcast, you know, it gave me a totally different perspective on post-production. Like, you know, all the magic happens in post-production. Now, if you know, I guess it's forgiving if you forgot to do something in, you know, production, recording, this and that, and post-production can really do some beautiful things. Now, another thing you mentioned is self-taught. Now, that's something that a lot of talented people that I interview, they're all self-taught. Now, what is your take on education? If you had to do it all over again, would you go to college?
I don't think I would go to college. I think that I enjoy this journey. I'm still self-taught. Every single day after work, I'm studying. Last night, I got out of work and I just came home and been trying to teach myself Fusion and Nuke a little more. So I kind of dive in and I just harp on something until I feel very comfortable with it. So even if I were to do that in school, I feel like school would eat up my time from actually being in the tool. There's plenty of books. I find books and tutorials and stuff like that far more helpful than schooling. For me, I was never a school person. I actually did really bad in school. So,
dude, me too.
Yeah.
What's that quote? Education without application is just entertainment. And I think it's so true. If you can just learn, if you just can, you know, learn from your projects, like if you want to learn something, just create a project and then you can learn from those things. Now, let's transition to a dark moment in your life. This is my favorite question. I always ask this question. I always get great responses on the pressure. Now, I want you to tell us the story of your worst moment in your creative journey.
In the creative journey?
Well, you know, in your life journey, something that affected you so much the way it affected your creative journey. So it doesn't have to be, you know, just dealing with clients or projects.
Well, I
putting on a spot
lot
here.
Of those. Yeah, I'm like, which one? I'll try to do two. Well, first, I'll just mention that there's that whole one that you can see online and everything that's not creative. That was just a popular dark one, which is the whole beard thing. You'd have to look that up online to hear that, or we can mention it later. But as far as creative goes, I think it was when I was on Cape Cod and I was doing that home theater thing. And I think I was making like $80K a year, and it was like really good job. And they had my truck paid for and everything. I was like super. Oh, and I lived on like my friend's father. I was living in this place. It was like a easily $1 million home, and like everything
Nice.
was sweet. I had a 2-car garage that was basically only used by me. Everything was sweet. So that was the weird part, was that was the darkest moment when I had everything, but it was more of a circumstantial thing. Like I didn't actually earn anything. I didn't have, it wasn't a decided result. So how I ended up there was kind of a flip of a coin. Like I don't know how I did. I was just lucky. And then I was depressed. It's like I have issues with just having depression in the past. So I was like, oh, this is totally weird. What's going on? I should be happy. And then I wasn't. And one of my favorite phrases or things I used to coin is the term golden handcuffs. Like they strap you in, they're beautiful and they're worth a lot, but they can really hold you back from everything that you really want to do. So breaking those off theoretically to pursue something that would make me happy and forget money, comfort, or anything like that, just pursuing things that gave me joy in my life and all that, that was the first turn. And that was when I had to quit the job and get really scared. And literally, like, my neighbors gave me food sometimes. And like,
Wow.
my money was going down and it was wild. And then I was in school. So it was just all fear. But I was at home studying After Effects and reading and trying to work like some crappy job and so on. So yeah, that was the biggest turn. That was the most landmark thing. And then, I think 5 years later, I finally got something without ever giving up. I was just like, yeah, I'm going to do this. So.
No, it's interesting you say that, fear held you back from greatness. And, I worked a job for 5 years that took away my peace. And the same thing, it's those golden handcuffs that you're talking about. It's because I was there for the wrong reasons. I was there for benefits and, all the things. But in my heart, I didn't have peace about it. And the same thing, I had to quit it cold turkey. I already had a child. We were married and had bills and I had to quit it cold turkey. And then finally stepped into what I felt like I should have been doing. And let me tell you, that's when we learn the most. When our back is against the wall, man, that's when growth happens, man. When you step out of that comfort zone, man.
Yeah, like when you ask me questions like this.
Yeah. Putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, I know, right?
I was reading on beardbrand.com, which, by the way, man, pretty sweet. I saw your video on there as well, which got like almost 100,000 views, and looks like you're a frequent flyer there too.
Yeah. I make a bit of videos for them. Not as much lately because this past year has been super busy. But yeah, there's lots of internet things I try to do. Just in general, being creative I just love doing that.
No, and it's clearly working out for you. Now, something that was in the blog that I read, let me read it real quick. It says, emotional devastation and loss made Jeff strive for more out of life. Now, I want to circle back to that emotional devastation. What was that all about?
So that was like, I'll try to sum it up. My girlfriend at the time, well, this was shortly, maybe like a year or two after I got to New York, and I was only making like $100 a day or something. And I wasn't working that often. This was just trying to do After Effects stuff. And I was doing I was a runner at like CBS Sports, and they paid all right, but the job was only on a Saturday. So it was like, I got like very little money. And that was a super seasonal thing. So that was actually the thing that was kind of paying some of my rent. So when my girlfriend and she broke up with me, and I just don't deal with loss that well. So I was like, it messed me up like crazy. And then the season of the workload kind of came to an end. So I was just sitting at home watching Netflix all day, just like devastated, had nothing really to do, nothing to like look forward to. It's just like nothing was working out. It was just, I got somewhere and then it crashed again.
How did you get out of that?
So honestly, that was when the beard story came about. I just stopped shaving. It was a disheveled like happenstance of just growing a beard. And then I posted it on Reddit really quick, like a picture. I was like, hey guys, what should I do? Should I do a mustache, sideburns? I don't know anything about this stuff. And Reddit's like, oh my God, that's such great growth, blah, 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 blah. Grow it. I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. And then I grow it. And I posted another, and I was like, hey, thanks guys. This is really working out. Cause then I started getting lots of attention, new women and stuff. And, they're like, holy crap. And it blew up. And then I grew out even more, got more attention, so on. And that's when all the like BuzzFeed and Maxim and everybody started reaching out. And I was just like, oh, this is weird. So yeah, it was kind of the subtext to that is I started embracing who I truly was. And that was when I actually got the rewards. There was less of like trying to fit in and things like that, which I feel like is one of the reasons that my girlfriend and I didn't get along or we broke up, was because of I felt pressures to be a certain way and so on, like blah, blah, blah. Super deep, all that. But that's kind of the short version, I guess. Yeah, I don't know how.
No, that's what I love. I love going deep with people I talk to. But it's interesting. You're saying how if you act like somebody you're not over the time, like it's going to affect your life. But it's interesting when I do some public speaking for an organization that helped me when I was a child. And so I started 2 years ago, just speaking at different churches and events and things. And it's interesting for the first year, when it's kind of like I was a kicker. I was trying to be a kicker for a long time, tried to walk on in college. And when you're like 50 yards away, the form. Well, like when you're really close, you concentrate on your form, you kick it really well. But when you're 50 yards away and you're trying to hit that field goal, you always kill it really hard and you don't concentrate because you get intimidated by how far away it is and you just totally destroy that kick and usually go super low and not as accurate. Well, and same thing with speaking, right? When I started speaking, it's first year, it was basically me trying to act like not me. I was trying to be like some speaker on stage. But what I learned for this journey that the quicker you get to being you, the more effective you will be as a speaker, as an artist, as a person. So the quicker you get that fake person out of the way, the quicker you become comfortable with who you are. Because sometimes I watch tutorials on YouTube and some of these tutorials, people act like they're PewDiePies and just totally personalities that everybody knows. You know what I mean? But the quicker, the quicker you can become you, the more effective you become. And that's the lesson I just learned like yesterday. And I don't know if I'm communicating correctly, but that's kind of what I got out of that.
That's actually something I think quite a bit about. So one of my things currently is YouTube, and I don't really know what I'm doing on YouTube. I just, as a creative person, I just need to create. And I kind of got sick of static images, and I love After Effects and video, but I want to implement it into my own work instead of helping others create their work. So I'm trying to practice more in my stuff. And I was like, oh, YouTube's fun. Let's do this. And of course, you start, if you're going to do YouTube and be in front of the camera, not like make YouTube tutorials, which is not, anyways, like you're bound to start copying what you see or like be influenced. So, I'm going to have a video that looks like a Casey Neistat video, I'm
guilty of that.
Yeah, and do you have a YouTube too?
Well, I've done some vlogs and stuff, but I love Casey Neistat, and so like
he's so talented.
I did the same thing, so I'm like, wow, but that's how you start out. At first, you start copying people, but then after a while, you should transition to. But anyway, continue.
Totally. So as I was saying, it's like you end up copying, and I don't see anything wrong with copying. I kind of was getting mad at myself, and I was like, oh no, it's okay as long as I'm not copying forever as like a thing. It's like I make a deliberate thing to like put myself in somebody's shoes to learn instead of to copy and run with that. So with YouTube, there are so many influences like that and so many ways you can express the people that you're influenced by. And I'm constantly jumping into other people's shoes and trying out their thing. And, some things just really don't work. And what I've realized is that the more I kind of just let go and I get inspired by people, that's the same thing. The result is better. People respond. But when I try really hard, it helps me grow, but people don't like it. It's kind of like this weird thing with just not truly being yourself. But I do feel like it's necessary to try to do things like other people, because if you just keep doing the same things yourself, then you kind of get stuck. So I like to switch it up and just try something different and just kind of go nuts, and then realize that that's not a permanent thing. And I really learn a lot from trying something. Like I made a After Effects tutorial, and I've tried to put like bumpers and transitions like your brother does. And I was like, oh my God, this is so much work. Like, I cannot do this. There's no way. And like having like the little window showing me, and like my camera battery would overheat because I'd take forever on 10,000 takes. It's like, there's no way this is sustainable. I learned a lot, but no way I'm doing this again.
Right.
Like, but now if I were to do a tutorial again, I'd be like, all right, cool. I'm not doing a camera. I'm not doing bumpers. It's going to go straight to the point, so on. And then that would be truly me, and like it really would fit. So.
And, a lot of times it's dangerous to be you. A lot of times it's easier to hide behind somebody else's personality because it works. It's been proven to work. But when you try to be transparent and authentic and you, it's hard because when you open up your heart, and people don't receive right, you take it very personal. So there's a lot of you have to be very vulnerable to it's not for everybody, definitely. Like I'm learning that it's very hard to open up, and it's very hard to speak your mind and putting yourself out there, because when you put yourself out there, then all these negative comments you have to deal with. English is my fourth language, so I'm waiting for those comments to come in and say something, but so all these
They're
different
inevitable.
Things.
Yeah. I actually want to tap into the comments because in my world, I get a lot of comments, especially from the internet. And, surprisingly, I have a very positive fan base or followers, whatever. However, there was something that had to happen when my initial like internet boom thing happened. There was a lot of comments and they were positive, and I felt really, really weird about them. And at first I was like, oh, this is so good. This feels really good. My ego was like just, I was on cloud nine. Everything was great. And then there was a couple ones like, well, what a jerk, like this asshole, so on. Anyways. So they started coming in like, here's some negative ones. The more positive, then there was more negatives, more and more. And there was a percentage, and that percentage grows with your growth of numbers, actual. So it's like, oh, I gotta assess this. So I sat down and I just kind of like really thought about it. And I realized the best way for me to deal with the negative was to actually just not care at all about any of the comments. So not care about the positive or the negative. That way I could be objective and realize, just take things for face value. So if I see a negative comment, I can easily be like, oh, well, actually they have a point here. Maybe I should have done this better. Or, oh, okay, that person's just hating. They're actually projecting their own weird insecurities. Same with somebody being like, oh my God, like you're so awesome. Like, okay, you're just trying to get my attention. And then this person being like, hey, thanks for this, or great work. I really like that. Or, hey, any advice for this? Like, these are legitimate comments versus like somebody just trying to get attention. You can really start to see things, and having that, in a sense, it's a barrier, but I feel like it's a really healthy one. I actually got that idea from like listening to like celebrities deal with people, and they all seem to say the same thing. Like that's why they're like very standoffish, and they like have their home on the hills. Like it's important to keep a separation, I feel. I mean, if their publicists are saying this is a good idea, then I was like, oh, okay, let me see how that works. And I dove into it. So now if I get hate, I seriously just don't care. It's really weird. I'll notice it, but I just don't care anymore. It's weird.
It's funny. Sergey, the way I'm shared this before, but the way he deals with haters, and we don't get that much, but every once in a while we do, because Ukramedia has the word Ukraine for Ukraine, and some people are like, well, I'm Russian, and the whole Russian thing going on. So they're like, just because you have Ukramedia, I'm gonna unsubscribe and this and that. And so what Sergey usually does, he likes the comment and then subscribes to their channel. That's how he does it.
Yeah, my favorite one. It's so cheesy, but every time somebody says something wicked like that I just really don't like, I'm just like, I'll just respond with I love you too, or I love you. Just because anybody who sees that thread, somebody being a total ass and being like, oh, well, I'm sorry you think that, love you. Like they're just the asshole. They're like, you
can't fight love and win, right?
Yeah, so exactly. Like even if they keep going, I'll just give it love you. Because honestly, like I mean, I'm just trying to help. I do love people. So it's totally, what's the word? Sincere.
Yeah. And, everyone has some people, maybe they didn't mean anything by it, but they don't have a good way of communicating. Some people are just too direct. You know, they'll just say things and really what they meant that way, but sometimes things don't come across very well in writing. But I think what you were, what I got out of talking to you about this is that just don't attach your identity on feedback. Just don't be, because sometimes if you get attached to just the positive feedback all the time and then all of a sudden you get negative feedback, it will destroy you completely.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, you said the word identity, and that's something I think about a lot too, as a creative, because, like, let's say I did do something that was like Casey Neistat and people loved it, which people do love vlogs versus something that's like a little more artistic. It's just going to get the views. So like it could take a weaker person who really doesn't have a good sense of self to be like, oh, well, that's what's good. I'm going to do that. I'm going to keep doing it, even though it's empty feeling like it's actually not them. For me, I really feel as a creative, that's poison. Like you have to just keep doing what you love, and making that Casey Neistat video is like an appreciation to learn and whatever. But like, I'll just do whatever I feel like doing, and that makes me happy. That's what I identify with, is like that being a creative, not being a person who does this or looks this way or anything. And in fact, the beard thing, that was a big thing that people like identified me as this bearded person. So I was like, I really can't, it's like becoming too much. So I had to shave it off to prove to myself that wasn't even close to my identity. Yeah.
When?
Yeah. I mean, I grew it back. I shaved it off for like 3 years or three summers, but I did leave a mustache because I liked the idea of like having like this cop mustache that was like more of a Western, like Tombstone. I don't know if you know that movie, but like, I was just like, this is something totally different. Most people hate it, and I don't care because I want to do it. And that was like, great. It just sent another trend as well too. And it like pushed, I kept doing it. And like, I feel like I did my little part to make mustaches kind of all right again, because being with the beer brand as like a part of that, it helps the people that see it kind of open up their eyes and just make somebody else feel comfortable to do a mustache, so on, whatever. But the whole point is that just back to embracing and not identifying with one thing. Like,
no, that's interesting you say that, and that's interesting, really, if you think about it, something you were associated with for such a long time and totally given that up, and then to prove yourself that, look, this is not my identity. Something similar happened to me. When I was working out to be a kicker, and I became, I was like 6% body fat, was 210, 6'2", and
Jeez.
that became my identity. I was like and then I had to stop working out completely, go like become a vegetarian because like my joints were hurting so bad, and I just wanted to give my body, because I was eating like 8 meals a day or something crazy like that. And so, but that became my identity so much to where I couldn't look myself in the mirror, and I felt so depressed because like that was my standard, had like the 6-pack and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden I'm not that guy anymore. And dude, that was the hardest thing I had to deal in life, like especially like early adulthood, when you're still trying to figure out who you are, find yourself. And it's amazing what you attach yourself to, man, could be a poison at the end, or looks. Go ahead.
That's a crazy one to think of, because yours is, I mean, I feel like visual ones are the hardest to let go of.
Right.
Because you see it every single day. Like a mental thing, like I can be in a good mood like 5 minutes from now and then be in a bad mood 10. So I feel like internal things are a little bit more fleeting and easier to accept, like my things. But when it's physical, I feel like it's definitely the biggest like impact.
Right.
Like if you change completely how you look, people respond so visually. Like they don't know what you do for work or if you're being creative or not, but they'll treat you different if you're in shape. Totally.
Right. But can you imagine like supermodels when they retire or they give birth, and just all of a sudden their body's not the same?
Yeah. Like so many female supermodels get super depressed and sometimes get really weird.
Suicide, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, the moral of the story, don't attach yourself to anything that will, at the end, can turn on you. It's things that change quickly. So interesting.
Yeah, totally. You're never really, I just don't like to identify with anything forever.
Right.
Like that's the whole thing. I actually would be so pissed if I still looked like I did when I was 21. Like I was in great shape then, but I don't want to look like, I want to look like how I look now. And if I get a good body again, like I want to earn that. Like that's harder when you're older and your metabolism is like, that's just exciting. So everything is like, I also wouldn't want to dress the same or be doing the same work or partying the same. Like it's good to change. Like change is super exciting.
Dude, my whole life is nothing but change. I moved to this country at 12 years old, didn't speak the language. I mean, I'm once an immigrant, always an immigrant. I moved to Columbus, moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, now I'm here.
But that's the greatest quality. Like not many people get to have that. Like there's a sense of confidence that you will always carry through with you because of that. Like it's in a similar situation as somebody like growing up in like ghetto who has like had to work themselves out of that place. Like they're always going to have a work ethic that's like, oh, I don't care how tired or how painful this is. I'm going to do it because I'm hard, versus
Right.
somebody who's just a trust fund person who may be like, oh, well, not today. I don't feel like it.
Right.
I'm soft. This is fine.
And you learn all these micro skills along the way too, as you break out of the, for example, like to learn English, I had to become a waiter. I thought that was the best thing to do for me, where you're forced to get out of your comfort zone and learning, speak to people, then moving around. So all these micro skills, then years later, you can apply it to your career. So you all those skills carry over eventually. And I think Casey Neistat said this. He said his favorite quote, he said something about, don't spoil your kids with things, but spoil your kids with experiences. And I think that's it right there. I've met people when I lived in Tennessee, in a small town, Kingsport, Tennessee, small town, that some people all their lives, they've never been past that town. Like they think Knoxville, Tennessee is like a New York City kind of city. They think it's huge. Mm-hmm. And what a perspective you have on the world when you're lived in the bubble and you don't know what's outside, and that's dangerous.
Yeah, totally. Actually, I put myself in a bubble lately, and I'm just actually trying really hard to get out of it. Like you said, the things and stuff. So I do a lot of minimalism stuff. But lately, there's one part of my life, or not lately, there is one part of my life that I don't practice minimalism with is gear and like computer stuff and shit like that.
Same here.
I just love it. I really do. And I don't find that that's a bad thing if you love something. Like it's not excessive.
It helps your career.
Really love it. And exactly. So that there's these things. But lately I've realized that I feel like I could love something else more. And I think that would be traveling right now. So I'm in the process of selling my computers. I've been researching a new like power laptop so that I can actually have a larger return of interest in my life. So like, let's say, I could take a picture of somebody like a model or something here in New York and edit it on my power computer really fast and my double monitors and grade it and all this stuff. And that would be a wonderful experience. I'd love every second of that. And that's what I do. But it might be easier I could actually take my cell phone in the Grand Canyon, take a picture and get the same reward. Be like, wow, this is something that actually makes me feel a certain way, just like that picture. And it would just be far less gear. It's just more of the actual subject matter, which is actually funny because it's counterintuitive because the thing I was saying in the beginning about post-production being everything, I feel like after a point, post-production is like it's kind of weird where I'm thinking, but it means nothing and it's everything. It's really weird. So for instance,
no, I know what you mean.
I'll just clarify that for anybody who may not know what I mean. There is, I can I see somebody take a photo and let's say they did post-production on it. That doesn't mean it's better because they could have crushed the blacks too much. They could have had the skin all saturated and that made it bad. And then there's somebody who takes a great photo and does no post-production. You're like, oh, it's just fallen flat. Like, so there's two ends of the coin. But the post-production on something that's quality can go so much further and can be so much more appreciated, kind of like cooking with good ingredients. And post-production is the cooking of these. But if you keep putting in junk, it's never really going to get greater. So having a lot more focus right now on these experiences and making better material to sweeten and cook with makes the cooking more enjoyable and everything like that. So I don't know why I always do analogies to cooking. I'm the worst cook too.
We can all relate to cooking that.
Yeah, exactly. But that's how I think about it. And it's an interesting thing I've been thinking
No,
about.
but it is true. And a lot of times people sometimes I watch videos on YouTube, like the vlogs, and their videos are like crisp and perfect and great, but they didn't work on their personality, they didn't work on their storytelling. A lot of times people skip that and they think that if only I had a better camera equipment, if only I had better computer, better lighting, better this, then I would be legit, But I think that you're better off starting with, investing more time in becoming a better storyteller. Figure out how your voice sounds, finding your voice. All that other stuff is, like you were saying, better ingredients. It enhances your storytelling. Like I think Casey Neistat says a lot. Like it just makes it helps me tell my story better. But if you don't have that story, I watched a lot, how many times you watch awesome movies that have so many amazing things in them, like all the graphics and everything, but there's no story. I'd much rather watch an old movie that has so much story and just basic shots, but the story is so strong. And the same thing goes to our
totally.
Anything creative.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I'm obsessed with that whole idea of creating as a whole instead of harping down. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I love post-production. Like it makes me so excited to comp. And even if I just do a screen comp, I'm always like, yes, that's so tight. But like, man, like Casey Neistat and storytelling. What I was thinking, what I dropped is a lot of times on YouTube, I see style over substance. And I'm kind of happy that that's there, because then my competition's a little lower, or at least I can spread the idea of like, okay, that's all right, but I really, really don't care. I subscribe to only a few channels on YouTube because I don't like half of the stuff that's on there, because I don't see any reason to waste my time. I could just be practicing like compositing.
What channels are they? Sorry to distract you.
Putting on the spot. I'll go through some. Let me actually open up my browser, but I'll go through different phases. Sometimes it'll be self-help stuff. Sometimes it will be gear and camera stuff. It kind of depends. Right now, I'm on a tech kick, like because I'm shopping for a laptop,
Gotcha.
So it's very functional. If I feel like I got super into like clothing, I'll start doing like men's stuff. It kind of goes through phase, but I like DSLR shooter for like gear stuff. Self-help stuff is like, I don't know, like Anna Akana, or I'll also like Art of Photography, Alan McKay, Peter McKinnon,
Ukramedia.com.
Ukramedia.com. I have whittled down my After Effects and post-production channels, and Ukramedia is the one that I tell everyone about. Like, like it's the one I share. Like, I know how important it is and how difficult it is to actually make something that people would share. It's like I'll share a trailer of a cool movie with my brother or a Ukramedia video. Like, it's crazy. Like, that's all I share.
I appreciate it.
It's bananas.
I didn't pay. Yeah. I'll pay you in rubles afterwards. That was good.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. No, but I'm serious. Like, I tell so many people, because I mean, I work with After Effects artists every single day. Like, that's another thing I've noticed with YouTube, which is the reason that I don't subscribe to a lot of channels, is they're actually truly not workers in something. They're not professionals. They might do it on the side, but they're actually not artists in that genre every day. And there's a lot to be said about the experience of actually working in it as like committing, like, this is my job. This is what I'm going to do. There's nuances in there that you just can't teach. And Ukramedia has those, and it's crazy. It's serious, not to just fan
Dude,
you, but
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sergey will be listening to this, and he needs to hear it. We're our worst critics. Sometimes we forget that a lot of times we're so concerned about that next thing. You as a creator, I'm sure you're always concerned about keeping your finger on the pulse, so to speak, trying to think of that next thing, that you forget of the things that already been accomplished. The progress that you've made. I mean, just looking at your stuff. You have a YouTube channel that's almost like has 30,000 subscribers. Your Instagram account's pretty popular. I mean, you have a profile on famousbirthdays.com. I don't even know if you know this.
I did not know that.
You're a celebrity, man. You're a big deal. People know you. People know.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, well,
No, that's awesome. And it's interesting how you're a motion graphic artist, but at the same time, you have this other thing that is creative as well, but it has to do with beards and dude, you're like a model on social media. I was just like, wow, you're a social media sensation. That's pretty sweet. Man.
It's strange. So that was just like what I love about being on this podcast is because it's like finally like a creative thing, and that's something I want to pursue in the future as a podcast for creatives. And I'm trying to whittle down a niche to make it more exciting. But with your podcast is like it doesn't matter. Like you guys can appreciate the fact that just because I may take pictures or be in pictures, it's about the creative journey, and it's not about just After Effects, although that will turn people on to your channel. I think that what really is exciting about After Effects and post-production and everything is that creative side, and like the way that creatives that I feel like use After Effects and post-production or filmmaking, there's a certain mindset of like very self-driven and very like partially logical, but super artistic, like all of this creative mixture of how do I make this vision come true into reality requires certain mindset that I just get super excited about. So I get wicked into all of that. And yeah, I'll practice with shooting people, getting shot myself, doing YouTube, doing like stuff at work. And it's just crazy. It's funny though, because this thing that pays me the most, the After Effects, I actually have very little online about it. And in fact, my reel is, I think, 4 years old. I have to really update that, but whatever.
No, but it's interesting that, a lot of times people do the same thing over and over and over and over again, and they lose that creativity. And I think you doing all these other things on the side, I think it enhances your creativity big time. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. So actually a great example of that is I was doing the After Effects. I'm just thinking about moving layers and expressions and what does this text look like? Oh, well, how does this font work with this font? What weight, so on. And then I started getting into the whole modeling stuff. And then I was like, oh, cameras. Oh, I've had a camera before. Let me try to use this. And I started learning a little bit more about still photography. And then I start wondering about how to shoot other people. And I hang out with people that I don't know and work with people, like making them comfortable. And then that eventually came to color grading. I got super obsessed with color grading. And then I started learning and practicing color grading, like being a colorist. And I have had a couple colorist jobs for video. And just because I went this whole roundabout, I landed in this area of obsession with color. And I feel like I've really figured out, like, if you looked at all my photos, like I color almost
great.
All of
them. They're
awesome. And like, I found a style that I really love. And if you look way back, they're really bad. And now, like, it's helped me. And color jobs are wonderful. They're just so cool. But I wouldn't have gotten there if I didn't go this roundabout thing. And if I just stayed in After Effects, I would have just been stuck with like Magic Bullet looks, which is awesome. But it's nice to be able to build that from scratch and know everything that I want to do.
I think creatives can't help but to create, and it doesn't have to be one field. I think, I'm sure if soon you'll transition, if you're not transitioning to writing, I'm sure that's something, because I can see you being that guy who does.
That's actually totally, that's funny. That's my weakest thing right now. So because of the YouTube, that's actually putting that pressure on me to make more of a story, which we talked about earlier. And that's just where I just don't know what I'm doing. And so that's my current story right now, is like, I'm trying to figure it out. That is my story.
Man, don't we all, right?
I don't know how to. Yeah. So, but that's what I'm working on, is story.
No, and that's what I liked about your last video, your update video on YouTube. I love how you were so transparent and so authentic. And at the end, you had like a little clip where you said, look, don't hold me to these things. I'm still trying to figure things out. I'm still trying to figure out where it's all going to be. And that's all you can do. Yeah.
That was when I was editing. I'm like, oh man, this is totally coming off the wrong way. So came back, but yeah.
Well, look, I'm looking at the time. It's like, man, we're 46 minutes in. And actually I'm getting a lot of emails from people saying that I wish you made these podcasts longer. That's why I'm not very concerned about timing too much. Because people are like, man, I just, it's like, I work in an office where nobody talks and I put my headphones on. And a lot of these people, they're graphic designers, videography. Most of the people that listen to are motion graphics people, but I'd say like 40% are not motion graphics people. So that's kind of cool that
that's
other
crazy.
creatives listening to these people. Yeah, and I was surprised. I was like, wow, good. That's cool.
That's really awesome. Yeah, it's funny. I never really would have thought that, but I do feel like it's for creatives, as I was saying.
Because the journey is the same, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I can sympathize too. Like I put on my headphones and I'm just hunkering down into the computer screen all day, and it's weird, and I get like sores on my ears. It's crazy. Like I seriously have headphones on all the time. So yeah.
Well, let's transition into something more positive. I know I asked you earlier about what's your worst moment, the darkest moment, but let's transition to your best moment, best project that you worked on as a creative.
Oof.
Finish strong there.
There's been a lot of them. I've been really lucky to work on some really cool things. This would be a lot of like name dropping stuff.
Oh, go for it, man.
Moments. All right, I'll try to work backwards so I can keep my mind straight. I just kind of was helping my friend work with Christina Aguilera on her newest thing, which I don't know if I can say more than that. That's exciting.
Sweet.
And then before that, I actually helped the same person. We designed Kid Cudi's world tour.
Sweet.
And that whole thing. And that was really cool. And like meeting him or like being around, it's like super weird. So music stuff is super awesome. Before that, one of the coolest things, there's this diary release for Rihanna. That was really, really awesome. Wow. And the art director on that is just like super inspiring, dude. And I work with so many great people. Like it's hard to honestly, working with great people is the most inspiring and the most positive. But let's see, before that, the Lip Sync Battle TV show, I took over the design for that and animated that with a friend of mine, and that was super awesome to see that all over the place and seeing the logo.
Wow, you've done quite a bit already
in the opening. So yeah, so the thing with New York and like bigger cities is you get to have these things put on your plate you otherwise wouldn't necessarily have gotten to, and it's super exciting and can be misleading because you're like, that is New York, like there's lots of great jobs, like I'm doing, but
the competition is higher
right now. But yes, that's true. But I mean, if I lived in the middle of like, I don't know, if I was living back on Cape Cod, I wouldn't have gotten any of these jobs, no matter how good I was. So location is important, and I do try to realize that it doesn't mean I am that awesome. I still have a lot to learn, but yeah, I've been really lucky to work with a lot of great people and on these cool jobs. But after a while, honestly, the job and brands and stuff like that don't matter. Honestly, I like to work for really just jobs that excite me in certain ways, or some animation that I get some creative freedom, at least a little bit, is nice. Not too much freedom, because then you have to do too many revisions.
So true.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff, but I don't know.
No, that's great. You're a busy guy, like I said earlier. Now let's finish strong, man. What is your best advice you've ever received in this industry or just life in general?
Received? I don't know, but I can tell. I'll go back to what I said in the beginning. Being a good person is the best.
Keep it simple.
Advice I can say. Yeah, really. Everything else is extra. It doesn't matter. Like if you're a good dude and you're really not like too meek about like yourself, as far as like being, oh, excuse me, I just wanted to reach out and see if you had any work for, like that kind of attitude is not cool. Like you can be confident and be a nice person, be like, hey, listen, I'm seeing if you guys are available, or just being straight up, just like, hey, how's it going? I really love your work. Like, for instance, actually being on this podcast was started because I actually just reached out.
That's true.
I seriously was just like, hey guys, I just appreciate you. I wanted to tell you that.
I remember that.
Just straight up, just like, I wasn't looking for anything. I just was like, I really like you guys. I'm a fan. And that's how, like, now I'm on this podcast, which I'm super still nervous and excited about.
You're nervous. I'm nervous. Yeah. You're the celebrity guy with the profile of celebrity.
Yeah, but that really is a perfect example. Like, I seriously, just being a good person is far more important than everything. As far as a career goes, and advice for anything, because it really will apply to the rest of your life.
I'm going to plug something in real quick. Recently I use this service. I'm not going to say what service it is because I don't want to put the guy on the spot. But anyway, so I just sent 18 ideas how to improve his service. And they were like well thought out ideas. I was on the plane once. I was like, I was thinking about actually starting a company just to compete with the guy. And I was like, I don't want to start another company. And so I just I want to be a good person, and just like you're saying, good person. I just want to send it with no strings attached. I'm not trying to get anything. Just I sent him 18 amazing ideas how he can improve this service. The CEO responded to me and he's just like, wow, these are amazing things. Thank you so much. Like, what are your rates? I'm like, oh, I don't want anything from you. I'm just, oh, and by the way, here's 5 more. He's like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, oh, by the way, here's a Photoshop file of, I had some time, I redesigned your dash completely. And I think here's a dark theme of it. And he's like, who are you? Like, can I hire you? And I'm like, I'm just being kind. He's like, wow, well, if you ever need any kind of favor, dude, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you with anything. I was like, being a good person. People
like to work with people they like, honestly. In the end, I mean, somebody's if 2 plumbers, one's your friend and maybe a little bit not as good, like they're going to hire the friend 100%. Like, so, I mean, just being like you said, that's a great example. Like if he ever wanted somebody to redesign things, he's going to think of you. Like and it's important too that I'm not saying that as like a manipulative tactic. Like just seriously be a good person, not to do it for an outcome. But
no, that was well said. Now what's coming up for you, man?
Future endeavors is it's hard to say, but I would really love to do YouTube as a career and do more things, experiment with traveling a little more, or at least expanding what I could possibly do with self-promoted videos. It's really hard, but if you think about any kind of YouTube, say Ukramedia's YouTube, like there's going to be a point where he may, or you guys may not like how you're doing something, and then you have to be creative with some other thing, and like maybe like VR and YouTube might take over. You'd be like, oh, you know what if we did a VR like YouTube, if the resolution was high enough, you could like look to the right and see the screen and look to the left and see Sergey, like, oh, it could be this world. Cool. And it'd be like hovering over his shoulder. Like, and then you start pursuing like these things. So I really want to see what I'm going to come up with and just test myself creatively and make better stories and test new things. I want to just see where that goes. I don't know.
We're going to keep an eye on you, man. I have a feeling your future is, I mean, you already kind of made it, but I'm curious to see where you're going to take this. Now, in closing, man, let's tell people how they can get in touch with you.
I think, I guess you could just do my website, which is bonco.com, BUONCO. And all my social links would be in there at least. Just one link is easy. And I have to mention that my reel on there is 4 years old. It's super bad.
It's still good. It's still good, though.
So I need to update it. I think that reel is important. And I really get my work from networking, though, and just people. Again, it goes back to that thing. It's like, you know, work is secondary a lot of times. So yeah, it's really, you're going to lose a lot of work if you don't have a good reel like myself. Like, but I mean, like, did I say that correctly? I don't know. I don't know how I've messed up that line, but basically,
no, if you're,
it's important to have a reel, but
no, but you're right. If
totally,
you're real,
I totally fell apart.
No,
like I'm just falling apart here at the
end. No, it was great. No, but I get what you're saying. Like, if your reel's not up to date, your reel is your first impression for the companies. You know, and I also add to that, totally. And it looks like you're busy because it's all about who you know and who knows you. And it seems like you're not relying on your reel as much as you're relying on people you know. So that too is powerful.
Oh, totally. And it's crazy. Like, I work so much. I cannot get free time. Like, and I'm working long hours, and the demand is insane. Like, it's unbelievable. And it's funny because I have a huge imposter syndrome, but I'm always working. I'm working on weekends. I'm constantly getting hit up for work. Like, people want me to work for them, and that's super nice on my ego. Although I don't believe any of it, I'm still like, oh, I'm really bad at my job. But because of that, I don't update my reel because I'm like, oh, this isn't that good. Too busy. I have to sleep, actually. Whatever.
It is interesting that most creative,
crazy.
talented creative people I know say the same thing. Like Sergey struggles with that too. He's like, he doesn't think he's good at anything. But, it's obviously not
crazy.
true, right? But it just shows that you're a humble person and you're well aware that there's always a next level. And man, that's awesome. That's a good attitude to have. And with that, man, we're going to end. So thank you so much again for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Jeffrey Boncristiano. Make sure to visit Jeff's website, BUONCO.com. Again, it's BUONCO.com. All the links and resources mentioned in this episode are also available on our website at Ukramedia.com/39. And while you're there, check out our course on After Effects Expressions. We have well over 6 hours of content, all for you. For more information, go to Ukramedia.com/expressions. Don't forget to join our online mentoring group on Facebook. Simply go to Ukramedia.com/community. We have well over 2,300 people in this group. It is a great online resource for those of you trying to grow, and it's absolutely free. Thank you so much for joining me on the journey of this podcast. I appreciate you, and I look forward to serving you in the next episode of the Ukramedia podcast. Bye-bye.